This video discusses why the debate around the rule of law is growing and why citizen oversight is being discussed again. Judges are speaking out. Across Canada, judges have made direct comments about pressures on the justice system, declining public confidence, and the importance of constitutional accountability. Recent remarks and decisions show a growing concern about maintaining the rule of law and public trust. These recent warnings, viewed alongside earlier constitutional cases, show a consistent message. Government power must remain accountable to law, and citizens must have meaningful ways to challenge abuses of authority. In the 1938 Reference Re Alberta Statutes case, the Supreme Court considered legislation attempting to control banks and restrict press criticism. The ruling emphasized that democratic governance depends on active participation and open scrutiny of authority. The court struck down the laws. Justice Cannon warned that democracy cannot be maintained without its foundation: freedom of public opinion and free discussion. This decision recognized that democratic government depends on active public participation. In 1959, the Roncarelli versus Duplessis case focused on the rule of law and abuse of power. The Premier of Quebec canceled a restaurant owner's liquor license because the owner posted bail for repeatedly arrested individuals. The Supreme Court ruled that the Premier had abused his authority. Justice Ivan Rand wrote one of the strongest statements of the rule of law in Canadian history: "There is no such thing as absolute and untrammeled discretion." In the 1997 Reference Remuneration of Judges, the court explained that Canada's constitution includes unwritten constitutional principles derived from the constitutional tradition of the United Kingdom. These unwritten principles include judicial independence, constitutionalism, and the rule of law. The court emphasized that these principles guide how the Constitution must be interpreted. In the 1998 Reference Resecession of Quebec, the Supreme Court of Canada identified 4 foundational constitutional principles: democracy, federalism, protection of minorities, and constitutionalism and the rule of law. These principles, federalism, protection of minorities, constitutionalism, and the rule of law, form the unwritten foundation of Canada's constitutional structure. The 2014 case of Trial Lawyers Association of British Columbia versus British Columbia affirmed that access to courts is essential. The court ruled that court fees preventing citizens from bringing cases violated the Constitution. Chief Justice Beverly McLachlin wrote, "Without access to courts, the rule of law is threatened." The decision confirmed that citizens must be able to challenge government power through courts. The 2024 case, Canada, Attorney General v. Power, considered government accountability for unconstitutional laws. The Supreme Court considered whether governments should be immune from damages when they pass unconstitutional legislation. The principle is that government authority must remain accountable under the Constitution. The court rejected the government's argument for absolute immunity. The majority ruled that governments can be liable for damages in rare circumstances when unconstitutional legislation harms individuals. This ruling reinforced a core constitutional principle. The increasing judicial warnings show that the rule of law is under pressure. The consistent constitutional message is that government must remain accountable to the law. Chief Justice Wagner recently warned of increasing pressure on legal institutions, highlighting concerns like declining public trust and political attacks on courts. He described these as troubling threats to the rule of law. Justice Pazaratz has criticized systemic court delays and procedural complexity, warning that excessive litigation procedures can undermine access to justice and make courts difficult to navigate for ordinary citizens. In a 2026 sentencing decision, Justice Skarica wrote that the Canadian justice system is at an inflection point. Skarica noted that many Canadians believe the justice system, quote, prioritizes the rights of criminals over the rights of victims. Such judicial comments about public confidence are rare. The increasing judicial warnings confirm that constitutional accountability is a growing concern. The rule of law requires meaningful oversight. The constitutional message is that government authority must be exercised under the law, and citizens must have the ability to hold the government accountable for its actions. The Supreme Court repeatedly affirmed the rule of law as a foundational constitutional principle. This principle ensures that the government and all citizens are bound by and accountable under the law. The rule of law also requires that citizens have effective ways to enforce their rights, including meaningful access to the courts. Recent warnings from judges highlight the importance of actively protecting these constitutional foundations against pressure and decay. Citizen oversight is key to maintaining a healthy democracy. Thank you for watching this video on the growing debate around the rule of law and the need for renewed citizen oversight.